Everyone in Akwana Village believed that helping the poor brought blessings. For generations, that belief had never failed them. Until one day, a mysterious beggar appeared. From that moment, every person who showed him kindness lost the greatest blessing of their life. A woman whose cooking fed an entire village suddenly lost the favor in her hands. A young tailor watched 5 years of hard work disappear overnight. A wealthy farmer saw his flourishing harvest die before it could be harvested. The villagers were terrified, but they had no idea the worst was still to come. It all began on a hot afternoon. The sun shone brightly over Akwana Village. As women swept their compounds, traders displayed their goods in the market, and children laughed as they chased one another through the dusty streets. Life was peaceful, simple, the kind of village where no one ignored a hungry stranger. Then they saw him. An old man sat quietly beneath the ancient Iroko tree at the entrance of the village. No one had seen him arrive. No one knew where he came from. He simply appeared. His clothes were faded and covered in dust. His grey beard rested on his chest. Beside him sat an old, cracked wooden bowl that looked as though it had been passed down for generations. He never begged. He never called anyone. He simply sat there, watching. Some villagers pitied him. Others avoided looking into his eyes. "There is something unusual about that old man," an elderly woman whispered. Her friend shook her head. "He is only hungry. Leave the poor man alone." As evening approached, Mama Ifeoma closed her small restaurant. Everyone in Akwana knew her. She had lost her husband years ago, but instead of giving up, she built one of the busiest food businesses in the village. People traveled from neighboring communities just to eat her meals. Many believed God had blessed her hands. No matter what she cooked, people always came back for more. Looking at the lonely old man beneath the Iroko tree, compassion filled her heart. She packed a bowl of hot pepper soup and soft pounded yam. Then she walked toward him. "My father always taught me that no one should sleep hungry," she said as she placed the food before him. The old man slowly lifted his head. He looked directly into her eyes. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then, a strange smile appeared on his face. A cold breeze swept across the road. Mama Ifeoma shivered. The evening had been warm only moments before. The old man's lips slowly moved. "May your kindness never be forgotten." His voice was calm, yet something about it made her heartbeat quicken. She smiled politely and returned home. The following morning, Mama Ifeoma prepared her usual meals. Everything smelt perfect. Soon, customers began arriving. The first man tasted the soup. He frowned. "This doesn't taste right." Another customer sampled the rice. She immediately pushed her plate away. "What happened to your cooking?" Within minutes, the restaurant filled with murmurs. "The food is bitter. It has no flavor. This isn't Mama Ifeoma's food." One customer after another stood up and left. By the end of the day, the once busy restaurant was empty. People walked past her food stall without stopping. Some whispered, others simply shook their heads. Mama Ifeoma stood beside her untouched pots. She couldn't understand it. The food tasted exactly the way it always had. Then, another act of kindness changed another life. Adaize was one of the most hard-working young women in Akwana. She had spent 5 years building her tailoring business. At last, success had found her. Customers now came from neighboring villages. One evening, while closing her shop, she saw the old beggar sitting beneath the Iroko tree. Feeling sorry for him, she bought fresh bread and a bottle of water. The old man accepted them. A cold breeze swept past. His strange smile returned. "May your kindness never be forgotten." Adaize thanked him politely and continued home. That night, a frightened scream echoed through the village. "Fire!" People rushed outside, carrying buckets of water. Flames had completely surrounded Adaize's tailoring shop. Everyone fought desperately to save it. But before sunrise, everything was gone. Her sewing machines, her fabrics, her customers' clothes. 5 years of sacrifice reduced to ashes. The strangest part, the shops beside hers remained untouched. For the first time, people turned toward the Iroko tree. The old beggar was still sitting there, silent, watching. A few days later, Chief Nadi, the wealthiest farmer in Akwana, walked proudly through his maize plantation. Never before had his crops looked so healthy. He said, "This will be my greatest harvest." On his way home, he met the old beggar. Without hesitation, he reached into his pocket and dropped several notes into the cracked wooden bowl. The old man looked up. A cold breeze swept across the narrow path. His strange smile appeared again. "May your kindness never be forgotten." Chief Nadi forced a smile. He turned around and quietly walked away. No one spoke. No one moved. The entire village remained frozen.
3 days later, Ngozi was returning from the hospital with the happiest news of her life. For 15 years, she and her husband had prayed for a child. They had visited hospitals, attended prayer meetings, spent sleepless nights, believing God would one day answer them. Finally, their prayers had been answered. She was expecting a baby. As she walked home with tears of joy, she noticed the old beggar sitting beside the road. People passed him without stopping. Some even turned their faces away. Ngozi slowed down. Her husband gently held her hand. "Let's go," but she shook her head. If everyone refuses to help him, who will? She searched inside her handbag, brought out some money, and gently placed it inside the cracked wooden bowl. The old man looked up. The cold breeze returned. His strange smile appeared. Then he whispered, "May your kindness never be forgotten." Ngozi smiled and continued home. That night, she woke up with severe pains. Her husband rushed her to the hospital. Hours later, the doctor walked out quietly. His face said everything. The pregnancy was gone. Ngozi let out a heartbreaking cry that echoed through the hospital corridors. Her husband stood speechless. 15 years of waiting, gone in one night. When news reached Akwana, silence fell over the village. People no longer whispered. Now they believed. The beggar was cursed. No, he was worse than cursed. He was stealing blessings. No one went near the Iroko tree anymore. Children were warned never to pass that road alone. Some even suggested driving him out of the village. But before anyone could act, another tragedy struck. Chief Okafor had spent months preparing for his only daughter's traditional wedding. The entire village talked about it. Cows had been bought, food had been prepared, musicians had been invited, relatives traveled from far and near. His daughter, Amara, was beautiful, respectful, and deeply loved. The whole village looked forward to celebrating with her. On the morning before the ceremony, Amara noticed the old beggar sitting quietly beneath the Iroko tree. He looked tired, hungry. Without thinking twice, she took a plate of food from the wedding preparations and walked toward him. My father says a celebration is never complete if the hungry are forgotten. She placed the food before him. The old man slowly raised his head. The cold breeze swept across the compound. His strange smile appeared once again. "May your kindness never be forgotten." Ngozi smiled and continued home. The next morning, the village woke up early. Women dressed in colorful wrappers, drums echoed through the air. Guests filled Chief Okafor's compound. Everyone waited for the groom's family. 1 hour passed, then another. People began checking the road. They should have arrived by now. Chief Okafor called the groom's father. No answer. Again, no answer. Finally, a message arrived. The groom's family was no longer coming. The marriage had been called off. No explanation, no warning. Just like that, everything ended. The music stopped, The dancers sat down. The food remained untouched. Amara stood in the middle of the compound wearing her traditional attire. Her hands trembled. Tears rolled silently down her face. Hundreds of guests watched in disbelief. The greatest day of her life had become the greatest humiliation she had ever known. By evening, no one in Akwana doubted the truth anymore. Anyone who helped the old man lost their greatest blessing. Fear became anger. "This must end," one man shouted. "We should drive him out," another replied. "What if touching him brings another curse?" The villagers argued among themselves, but Emeka remained silent. Something wasn't right. If the old man truly wanted to destroy the village, why did he never ask anyone for help? Why did he never force anyone to give? Why did he simply sit and wait? That night, Emeka made a decision. If everyone is afraid of him, I'll find the truth myself. He wrapped a dark cloth around his shoulders and quietly left his house. Keeping a safe distance, he followed the old man through the darkness. For the first time since arriving in Akwana, the old man stood up after midnight. He looked around carefully. Then he disappeared into the forest. Emeka's heart began to race. He followed as quietly as he could. The deeper they went, the colder the night became. Then the beggar stopped in the middle of a small clearing. He gently placed the cracked wooden bowl on the ground. Before Emeka's eyes, a strange golden light began to rise from inside the bowl. Emeka froze. "What is that?" Just then, a voice behind him whispered, "You should never have followed him." Emeka slowly turned around.
The news spread across Akwana Village like wildfire. No one spoke about anything else. Mama Ifeoma stood before the elders. With tears in her eyes, she told them how the favor on her cooking disappeared after she fed the old beggar. Adaeze stepped forward. She spoke about the fire that destroyed everything she had worked for. Chief Nandi shared how his healthy maize plantation turned black overnight after he dropped money into the beggar's cracked bowl. Then Ngozi rose slowly to her feet. The entire palace fell silent. After 15 years of waiting to become a mother, she had finally conceived. But after helping the old beggar on her way home, she lost the pregnancy. Many people wiped tears from their eyes. Before anyone could recover from the shock, Chief Okafor stood up. "My daughter," he said quietly, "fed that old man from the food prepared for her traditional wedding. The following day, the groom's family never came." A heavy silence filled the palace. Then another family stepped forward. Their son, Kelechi, had spent months preparing for the biggest examination of his life. On the morning of the examination, he gave his breakfast to the old beggar. As soon as he entered the examination hall, everything he had studied disappeared from his memory. He failed the examination. One heartbreaking story followed another. A trader lost the biggest business opportunity of her life. A young couple's dream collapsed. An elderly widow lost the only source of income that kept her alive. By the time everyone had spoken, fear had gripped the entire palace. The king of Akwana slowly rose from his throne. He looked around the crowded palace. Then he spoke. "For generations, our village has been known for kindness. But today, our kindness has become our greatest fear." He turned to the palace guards. "Bring the old beggar before me." Moments later, the old man was led into the palace courtyard. He carried the same cracked wooden bowl. He looked around quietly. The king stared into his eyes. "Tell us the truth. Are you responsible for everything that has happened in this village?" The old beggar remained silent. Not a single word left his mouth. The silence angered the crowd. "He is guilty," someone shouted. "Send him away," another voice cried. Soon, the entire palace was filled with angry voices. The king raised his hand. Silence returned. He summoned the village priests and elders. According to the ancient customs of Akwana, cleansing rituals were performed throughout the palace and the village. Hours later, the king gave his final judgment. From this day forward, you are banished from Akwana Village. If you ever return, you will answer to the laws of this kingdom. The old beggar lowered his head. Without saying a single word, he picked up his cracked wooden bowl. Then, he slowly walked away. Every villager watched until he disappeared beyond the ancient Iroko tree. A deep sigh of relief swept through the crowd. At last, the nightmare was over. Or so they believed. Only Emeka remained standing. His eyes never left the lonely road. Something inside him refused to accept what everyone else believed. He quietly whispered to himself, What if we've just driven away the wrong man? The wind blew gently through the village. For a brief moment, it almost sounded like a familiar voice carried through the air. May your kindness never be forgotten. Emeka slowly looked up. His heart began to race. The old beggar was gone. So who had spoken? The end? Or is it? If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful African story. Now, it's your turn. Do you think the beggar was truly the villain, or did Akwana Village make a terrible mistake? Tell us your theory or experience in the comments.